big one.
Touchdown, Buffalo. Stefon Diggs.
They can't stop. Oh, real.
Stefon Diggs was wide open.
Touchdown, Stefon Diggs.
That's too easy.
Always put the money on me.
The trend of wide receivers getting paid continues as Stefon Diggs, the latest. Can you dig it? Yeah, well, the Bills could. 4-year, $104 million extension that includes $70 million guaranteed, according to Adam Schefter. So that's $70 million in guaranteed money. That's the second most guaranteed money on a wide receiver contract in NFL history. Of the 4 highest totals, 3 of them were signed this offseason. All those deals, well-deserved. Since 2018, the NFL's top 3 wide receivers in terms of most receiving yards are Davante Adams, Stefon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill. They got paid, and rightfully so. Welcome to NFL Live. Dan Orlovsky here, Ryan Clark, Adam Schefter here for the hour. We'll also get Matt Miller in for the draft coverage. Let's start with you, Adam, on the Stefon Diggs deal. How did it all come together?
I think Stefon Diggs saw all these other wide receivers across the league getting these mega deals, and he wanted in on the action. And he and the Bills have been talking throughout the course of the offseason. Finally were able to come together on an agreement that makes him, you would say, the second richest paid wide receiver in league history in terms of guaranteed money with that $70 million guarantee. And it adds on 4 more years, and I think Stefon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills both believe this should and will enable him to finish his career in Buffalo as a Bill. And obviously this organization and Stefon Diggs have big plans for the next 4 years. We'll see what they can do and what sort of magic they can make in Western New York.
Yeah, they've added some nice firepower. When you think about the whole picture, Dan, you think the deal makes sense?
It has to for the Buffalo Bills because we all know that they're a Super Bowl contender. I mean, make no mistake about it. In the last 2 years that Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen, their quarterback, have played together, they've connected 230 times for over 2,700 yards and 18 touchdowns. There's a correlation with Josh Allen in his ascension as an MVP-level quarterback. It's the addition of Stefon Diggs to this offense. And with the way their team has been built and where they sit right now in their window, this makes a lot of sense for that football team.
Well, you look at this football team and the things that they've been able to do the last 2 years, acquiring Stefon Diggs has really allowed Josh Allen to ascend into the MVP conversation, into that elite tier of quarterbacks. And when you have that type of connection with the #1 receiver, those are things you don't want to lose. Let's take Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams and what they were able to do. And now locking up Stefon Diggs with Josh Allen going forward in the future, you expect the same thing. But this has to produce a championship. This has to be a connection that's able to win the AFC Championship over the Kansas City Chiefs or over some of these teams that have now rebuilt and are full of power in the AFC. But you cannot win any longer in the AFC without being able to score points. The days of the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers playing football games that are 12-13 in the AFC Championship are over. This is a great move for the Buffalo Bills. You don't make your top wide receiver wait to get his deal. You extend him. You make him happy because you know how much better he's made your team.
Yeah, I hear you guys on that. And it's amazing how quickly the league changed when it comes to offensive style, right? But when you pay people, there comes sometimes a further expense to that. Let's dive into that. Diggs' extension pays him $26 million per year in the new money, the 4th highest average annual for a wide receiver. How difficult is it to this point, a team to win a Super Bowl while paying that much money to a wide receiver? Since 2016, you see it there, the only team to win the Super Bowl while paying a wideout a top 5 salary was the 2019 Chiefs, who had the benefit at that time of Patrick Mahomes being on his rookie contract. So, Dan, can you win and pay a wide receiver big money?
The Buffalo Bills will be the fascinating case study. You know, it's really going to be were the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs the ones who are right, or the Buffalo Bills? Because we've seen the Packers and the Chiefs not pay those guys, Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill, those huge contracts, and the Buffalo Bills have chosen to. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't. I think for General Manager Brandon Beane, who's had a phenomenal offseason, I see it 2 ways. Number one, he understands that he has a great quarterback.
Yep.
His quarterback is in part great because of the receiver that he gets to play with. So you have to trust that those guys are going to continue to play at that level. You also have to trust yourself. You have to trust your front office that you understand you got to be really good in your bargain shopping. You got to be really good in your development of your players. You got to be really good drafting because you are aware the amount of money you have really given to two offensive players. It's not like one offense and one defense. It's two offensive guys. You better be really good at all the other areas that have to be kind of squeezed because of those costs.
Hey, listen, the costs are never going to offset. Now that wide receivers are getting paid what we were used to see with quarterback monies means that other teams are going to have to do it too. We've seen the Las Vegas Raiders do it. We've seen the Miami Dolphins do it. Guess what? Justin Jefferson is going to be due here a deal in a little bit. And so we're going to start seeing some of these guys get paid, Deebo Samuel. And so this will become more of the norm of the league than the outlier or than the anomaly. But I do believe that the Buffalo Bills are going to be the best case study, as Dan said, because this is a team that was already on the cusp. Not only do they pay Stefon Diggs, but they give Von Miller a deal that many people were surprised about. But that's because this team is all in. And I think the other thing it shows is you trade for Stefon Diggs a couple of years ago. He comes in and immediately produces probably over what you were expecting. He deserves to get paid. And so as he watched Tyreek Hill get paid, he watches Devontae Adams get paid. If you're going to do the right thing in Buffalo, it's to give him this deal. And I believe they'll be rewarded with great play on the grass.
RC, you brought up the names Justin Jefferson and Deebo Samuel. I would say this. What about Cooper Kupp out there? What about the other wide receivers who were drafted in the second round who have 1 year left on their deal? That being A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel. There are receivers out there with what they are scheduled to make this year, $3-4 million. Why would you step on the football field right now when there are wide receivers being paid in excess of $20 million a year unless you had a new contract? So in my mind, these teams are going to wind up having to pay them, these wide receivers, or they're going to wind up having to trade them. And that's a decision that every team is going to have to make this offseason, because my belief would be when you look at the numbers going around, it doesn't make financial sense for the wide receivers who are out there on the last year of their deals on low numbers to lay 1 foot on the football field until you have the type of contract that's going around to these wide receivers across the league.
Yeah, Shefty, to your point, there's now 9 wide receivers in the NFL who are making upwards of $20 million per year. You mentioned the potential of trading those guys. I think you're going to look at some of those teams that have some of those cheaper rookie quarterbacks and sit there and go, a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, are you going to try to make a move for one of those receivers because you have the financial flexibility with Jalen Hurts to go pay? So are you going to go try to go get an A.J. Brown, who's that big-bodied receiver, because you can afford it? Are you going to go try to get DK Metcalf, who's a killer in the red zone, because you can afford it? Because eventually when you choose to pay the quarterback, we're going to see if you can do both quarterback and receiver, given what Buffalo has decided to do with Stefon Diggs.
Right, so the Stefon Diggs situation and his contract extension, the latest of all of this. Dan, I think when you think about everybody wanting everybody to get paid, right, it's a big piece of all of this. But when you're specifically the quarterback, and we know so well the relationship between Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs and how it was cultivated even when they didn't know each other when he came in 2020, how much does it do for you as a quarterback to see your guys get paid?
Oh, it's huge, because you know the work that you've put in. You know the performance that you've put in. You also know that you're on the journey together. I mean, if you don't have Stefon Diggs, Josh Allen can go to the Buffalo Bills and say, I can't win you your Super Bowl.
Right.
That's the truth. Now that you've given me him, not only for the now, but as Shefty pointed out with the terms of the contract for the next few years, I'm going to get you one. Like, I'm going to get you at least one. I feel Josh Allen, he has that confidence level. He's always been a confident guy, but he's got the confidence level of going, you've equipped me with everything. And I'm going to produce because I'm that good of a player, and you've given me my star receiver again.
I mean, what we saw Josh Allen do in the AFC Championship was nothing short of phenomenal. The way that Gabriel Davis was absolutely stunning and made so many plays throughout the entire day. But that doesn't happen without Stefon Diggs. You don't get to sit in your office and say to yourself, if you're Sean McDermott, you know, Gabriel Davis played so well, we don't need Stefon Diggs. No, that's because safeties were shaded that way. That's because people had to play too high in order to stop him, which allowed Gabriel Davis to be able to work the middle of the field. And so when you look at who who this team is and who Stefon Diggs made them, this was the right deal to make. And we are talking about some of these big deals being given to rookie quarterbacks, right? We have, you had DeAndre Hopkins get that deal out there with Kyler Murray. Then we saw Devontae Adams get his deal, but it's because Derek Carr only makes $25 million a year. We're going to start to see these big-time quarterbacks with big-time receivers get deals because you have to make those dudes happy.
Well, think about this. Stefon Diggs, when he signs this extension with Buffalo, which is now agreed upon, he's still working off the deal that he signed in Minnesota. Buffalo didn't sign him to that big contract. He signed that deal with the Vikings. So this will be the first real big money that Buffalo's paying him. But to bring it all together and to tie it all together, these teams that are out there with these star receivers are now at a crossroads. You can either pay your guy or you can trade your guy, but you're going to have to do one or the other this off season. And so for all the off-season headlines that we've seen with wide receivers, we're going to see more to come before camps open.
Oh, I like that, Adam. Either way, by the way, they're getting paid. If their team isn't paying them right now, they're going to go get paid by another team. Ahead on NFL Live, we got a lot coming your way.
Welcome to the NFL Draft.
Some talented DBs headlined by the likes of Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, and Derek Stingley Jr.
Be the best of the best. Realize.
Kyle Hamilton is the best player in the draft.
This guy is unbelievably gifted.
Intercepted. Hamilton's got it.
Stepping it up, giving you all the sauces.
Sauce Gardner takes it to the house.
He is everything that you're looking for in a shutdown cornerback.
I truly believe I'm the best cornerback.
LSU cornerback Derek Stingley Jr.
Of everybody in the draft, he has the highest ceiling.
When I'm at the best version of myself, I'm the greatest.
So one of our top stories today is the pro day of Derek Stingley Jr. there in Baton Rouge. Of course, we knew he was really fast. He proved a lot of that today, running a 4.3340. There he is, stretching out, getting ready to go. And a lot of the conversation, as you just heard, around Sauce Gardner and so much about how he's jumped ahead of Derek Stingley Jr., and yet you can't deny the exceptional talent of Stingley. He had a stellar freshman season in 2019 when he ranked in the top 5 of the FBS in pass breakups, interceptions, and completion percentage allowed for an LSU team that won the national title. Since then, though, and this is the big deal, he's been limited by injuries, wasn't as impactful when he was on the field. Over his last 2 seasons at LSU, Stingley only played 10 games, and his performance declined in each of those statistical categories. Stingley today talked about his interaction with Chargers coach Brandon Staley at the workout.
So his whole reason, he just told me for coming out here, he wanted to see if I still had like the determination and the like just power to go out there and just perform. And when he seen it, he said that's what he was waiting to see, and that's what a lot of people was trying to see.
What is your why?
I just want to be the greatest ever.
I just want to be the greatest ever. Listen, he could be. Draft analyst Matt Miller joining us now here with his thoughts. We'll start with you, RC, because you were down there in Baton Rouge today. What can you tell us about the atmosphere and what you saw from Stingley Jr.?
Well, listen, the atmosphere was all about Stingley Jr. You knew so many people, so many defensive coaches, head coaches were there to see if he still had the fight, to see if he still had the skill. Did the explosiveness in person match what they saw on tape his freshman year? And he checked all of those boxes. And honestly, Laura, what I saw from Derek Stingley Jr. is the same thing I've been seeing from him since he was 15. He is phenomenally talented. He's a guy who can step right on the field. And when we're talking about skill for skill, measurable for measurable, be with anybody who's playing in the NFL right now. This kid has Jalen Ramsey, Stephon Gilmore type potential, but it's about seeing it right out of the gate. Derek Stingley was born to do this. He was born to play this position. His grandfather was a first-round draft pick of the New England Patriots. His father played professional sports in both baseball and football, and he's been trained to do this his whole life. We saw that very early on his freshman year and didn't see it his sophomore and junior year. I think everybody is wondering which Derek Stingley you'll get, and today he showed them at least the guy you get has every bit of the measurables that you need to be successful.
No, RC is absolutely right, which that jacket is amazing. I can't even be in a 2-box with you today with how good the jacket looks. I'm embarrassed of myself today. I got to up my game. I'll be back tomorrow with something better, I promise.
Not you, Dan.
But I do think you're right. The measurables were never in question, RC. We knew how big he was. To be a bigger corner, 6'1", 190 pounds, to run in the 4.3 to 4.4 range, depending on which area scout you listened to that was at the Pro Day today. That was never in question. I think what is most important is what Derek said that he talked to Brandon Staley about was, do you have the drive? Do you have the determination? Are you the guy that we saw in 2019 that was shutting down Jamar Chase in practice, that was shutting down Justin Jefferson and Terrace Marshall Jr. in practice? Because that player, I'm with you, RC, would be the best corner prospect in this draft and has the potential to be the best corner in the NFL. My questions come when you spent the last 2 years, only 10 games, as Laura mentioned, injuries, those mount, and I think that's where the question comes in. Ability is the best availability. Right now, that's the only question about Stingley.
Yeah, you know, I understand the debate here, right? But I think the hard part for me, Dan, is we're almost comparing him against himself. And you have to do that, right? But he was exceptional in 2019. It was a breakout season, and then the decline. So how do you come to terms with that and assessing what you see, knowing that there was a decline from 2019?
I just thought he got bored. I call college football games, and I've called a couple of LSU games. I'm going to say this. I think two things that I heard stood out to me. When Derek said, when I'm the best version of myself, I'm the best. So he's even acknowledging that he hasn't been the best version of himself. And then when Matt just said, in practice, shutting down the two receivers that have come into the NFL over the last 2 years and absolutely dominated in Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. True. If that's a thing, you've got a superstar. I want to ask RC. RC, I know you know him. I don't want to put your relationship on blast or on Front Street, but, like, my perception is, just watching, that he got a little bit bored, that he was like, my freshman year was remarkable. I'm a top 10 pick. I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I won a national title. Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that's a reality?
You know what? I think part of it's boredom, but that boredom can allow you to not have that fire to dominate. And the one thing he said, and you mentioned it, Dan, he said, I know when I'm the best version of myself, I'm the greatest. NFL scouts and coaches want you to be the greatest all the time. They want to see that consistency. But let me show you a little bit about who Derek Stingley is when he's at his best. Because I believe when he's at his best, he's the best in this draft. Here, you're going to see off coverage from his freshman year against Auburn. Now, he knew he was playing a deep ball guy, so watch the bell and the open early. Look at him get his eyes back to the quarterback, the vision. Watch the speed turn here with the head turn. That is elite ball awareness. Go up, go high pointed, and get it over a receiver that was good at winning 50-50 balls. Get your feet down. Now watch this. He understands with the receiver off of the football, this is called a spray release. Off of the football, he's not going to rush out. He's going to sit his feet at 9. He gets the stem. Look, Derek Stingley has not backed up. That's the knowledge that he has. Look at him mirror the break of the wide receiver and excellent hands. There's no cornerback or defender with better hands than him. Now look at the awareness on the zone coverage. We're going to get a crack on the linebacker with the swing route, which is what this offense wants. They want to get him one-on-one with Stingley. Look at the break. He's leaving before the quarterback even gets the football out of his hand. Watch the closing speed. This is the 4.3. This is the 4.4 that we saw with the physicality that forces the fumble. These are the things that we wanted to see Derek Stingley do consistently time after time after his freshman year. But this is my favorite play from Derek Stingley's illustrious freshman year. Watch the patience in the press. The receiver's going to play on the line. He's not going to rush out. He's not going to open the gate. Small steps, slide sideways, gets his hand on. He's watching his ear hole. As soon as he turns to locate the ball, so does Derek Stingley down the field, puts his body into the Georgia wide receiver, locates, looks up instead of back with a great catch. Derek Stingley has stupid measurables and stupid skills. When he's locked in and when he's right, I don't care if it's hot sauce Gardner, I don't care if it's sauce Gardner, I don't care if it's mild sauce Gardner, it doesn't matter. The dude you can put on the field that would be the best at cornerback is Derek Stingley. Is Sauce Gardner maybe the best player in the draft in his mind? I'm not tripping. If he feels it, he could say it, and he should be drafted high. But if Derek Stingley is at his best, Derek Stingley should go before.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner would not think he was the best in the draft if his nickname was actually mild sauce. He would probably think maybe he was somewhere else.
I also don't like spicy wings.
You don't like anything spicy, Dan. We got more coming your way on NFL Live. How about those contracts? When we come back, Adam Schefter back with the latest on Stefon Diggs' contract extension with the Bills and what it means for these other wide receivers. Those dollar bills are going everywhere. A lot of people are going to get of the day. For that, we bring in Adam Schefter. And Adam, Buffalo gave Stefon Diggs a huge extension today. What do we need to know?
Laura, the explosion of offseason wide receiver deals continued in Buffalo, with the Bills giving Stefon Diggs a 4-year, $104 million extension that included $70 million in guaranteed money, the second largest guarantee ever given to a wide receiver. The deal ties Diggs to Buffalo for the next 6 seasons and gives the Bills and Diggs the idea and the hope that he'll be able to finish his career in Buffalo as a member of Bills Mafia. Meanwhile, Tyrann Mathieu visited the New Orleans Saints. It was his first free agent visit. Doesn't appear to be in any rush to do a deal anytime soon. Looking for the right fit, looking for the right contract. We'll see what turns up here, but certainly at this point in his career, he recognizes he'll be moving on from Kansas City and is looking for the right fit in his next stop after playing in Houston and then Kansas City. And today, earlier on, Whitney Mercilus, the former linebacker for the Houston Texans, the Green Bay Packers, announced his retirement after 10 years. Here's somebody who didn't start playing football till his freshman year of high school at Akron, and then went on to Illinois, became a high draft pick for the Houston Texans. You think back on your career sometimes after 10 NFL seasons and think about the journey from where you started to where it ended, and it was quite a career for Whitney Mercilus, who announced his retirement from the NFL today.
Yeah, congratulations to him and his family. What an incredible career. And to your point, Adam, great story. Let's get to Washington, where Carson Wentz has been introduced officially as a Commander. A new chapter, right? Maybe a last chance in a lot of ways, too, to prove he can be the 2017 version of himself. Already some nice weapons on this Commander's offense for Wentz. I'm not sure about the jacket, but that's a story for a different day. Speaking of those weapons, Todd McShay released his latest mock yesterday. He had the Commanders selecting Ohio State wide receiver Chris Olave with the 11th pick. I love it. Olave would give Carson Wentz another playmaker in addition to Terry McLaurin, who was Olave's teammate, remember, at Ohio State during the 2018 season. So, Matt, as you look at your fellow draft analyst projection here, does Olave to Washington make sense to you?
Yeah, Laura, I definitely think he does. And this is the range where we could probably expect him to come off the board following a super strong performance at the scouting combine. I think there's a little redundancy here with Scary Terry. Obviously, yeah, like you said, they were roommates. They're both vertical stretch speed players. I think Olave is a little bit more of a nuanced route runner, especially coming out of Ohio State. He's been asked to do a lot more in his route tree. You can watch him sink in his breaks. I think he has the best footwork of any receiver in this draft in his route tree. And there were times this year he got into some body catches, but I think you can iron that out. Some of it was probably working with a new quarterback in C.J. Stroud. So I do love Olave here, especially because Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and Kyle Hamilton are already off the board in Todd's mock draft. Because I think if Kyle Hamilton's there, that should be a no-brainer for Washington as they try to rebuild things. The football IQ, the character, the leadership, and the playmaking ability from Hamilton would fit this team great. But the wide receivers are going to go fast and early this year. So Olave at 11, I think, is great value. I know Dan loves him as well. This is what you need to give Carson Wentz to give him a chance to have success.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the body catching because McLaurin's a body catcher as well. You know, so they both could be a little bit. I would tell you this, if the Washington Commanders got Carson Wentz, Chris Olave, it'd be the best probably cumulative skill group that Carson Wentz has ever had, and it would put them on par with really Dallas in their division. I agree with you, Matt. The nuance of Chris Olave, I've called him a fast Keenan Allen, the way he drops his hips, the subtlety that he changes the tempo of his route, and just his ability to run by defenders. So you're looking at a Washington offense. If they got Olave with, obviously, Terry McLaurin, Chris Olave, it'd be Logan Thomas at tight end. You'd got Antonio Gibson and McKissick at tailback. I mean, that's a skill group that I could sit there and say, well, I understand Dallas is really talented, but those 5 guys are really, really, really good players. And I think that gives Carson, I'll tell you this, like if they got Olave and Carson Wentz had the same type of, you know, week 4 to week 15 production, then that gives Washington a legitimate chance to be contenders in that division.
If you think about it that way, and them being contenders, it's not just week 4 through 15, though. It's those latter games. And that's where
I can't go that far.
Sorry, I know. All right, so, RC, when asked if he feels increased pressure to win this season, head coach Ron Rivera said, quote, I do feel it. He said, this is the year that says we're going to ascend, and we should be ascending. So, Ryan, when you look at Wentz and all this, and we kind of just alluded to it, the pressure on him to finally put it all together, especially if they add even more weapons around him, how important is it, though, for him to have another weapon in this offense?
It's extremely important. Carson Wentz is playing for his starting quarterback career. There isn't going to be another opportunity where he just walks into a spot if he doesn't succeed with the Washington Commanders, and you get a guy like Chris Olave and you add him to some of the other players that they have there offensively. And Dan is right. What Carson Wentz was week 4 through 15 is enough to win in the NFC East. But there's pressure on Ron Rivera. There's pressure on Carson Wentz. There's pressure on everybody wearing a Washington Commander jersey to finally get to that place that they thought they'd be in last year, even with acquiring Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Carson Wentz understands that people need to see a flash of something that's actually consistent. It can't be one week and then bad the other. It can't be not coming through in the clutch football moments late in the season. Carson Wentz has to find some magic somewhere and bring it back to the NFC East that allows the Washington Commanders to win the whole division. And if he can do that, I think he can solidify himself as the new quarterback there for years to come.
Yeah, RC, you talk about the fact that people need to see Carson Wentz kind of have this year. I don't know if he is aware of that, right? I don't know if he's had that humility, that humble moment, because I certainly thought it was going to happen post-Philadelphia to Indy, that he would be humbled a little bit. Right. And the more you hear some stuff, the more that didn't happen. So I'm hoping he's seeing it the same way you did, that this is your opportunity. And then, like, I don't like the fact that there is such pressure, because I think that, you know, even me could sit here and tell you that that's probably where he's at his weakest, is having to be at his calmest in those pressurized situations. They don't have a great offensive line, but if they get Olave, it's a really good skill group, and it's going to take him to play consistently good football. They were 6-6 last year with 12 games into the season, and they went 4-5 over that last 5-game stretch, all within their division. If he just plays good football in their division on that stretch, this is, again, a team that could contend to be division champions.
Yeah, I did a bad Carson Wentz stat earlier, so I'll do a good one to finish this up. He had 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last season. That's the 4th best touchdown-to-interception ratio in the NFL. We'll end on a high note here. Let's stay with McShay's mock draft. That's for you, Dan. For a minute, as we read and react to some of his projections from this mock draft 4.0. Dan, you see McShay has the Chiefs trading up to the middle of the first round to take wide receiver Jameson Williams out of Alabama. Do you like that?
I love the player. I don't think that's the right place for Jameson Williams or the need for the Chiefs. I think they already have replaced it with Mecole Hardman and MVS. Jameson Williams is Deshaun Jackson to me. So I look at the Packers being the team that needs not only wide receiver help, but speed. He's got elite speed and elite quickness. I think more of a Jahan Dotson for the Chiefs. I talked about the speed that they have. They've got Juju, who's that big-bodied guy. Dotson's got that really refined route running. He's a guy that can play inside and play outside. He's a guy that can win in the separation aspect and be a viable option in those one-on-one things. Not that Jameson Williams isn't. I just think that for the health of the offense, I like Dotson there more than Williams.
Might not have to trade up for Dotson either. So let's continue to read and react as we put our Pittsburgh Steeler to work. RC, you like the pick of quarterback Malik Willis there?
I do, and I also kind of think that Malik Willis is the only guy that fits here. I feel like if Malik Willis is off the board before the Pittsburgh Steelers pick, that they don't pick a quarterback, that they go best player available, because that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. And we also know they don't do a lot of moving in the draft. So if Malik Willis is there, I think Malik Willis is his guy and is the Pittsburgh Steelers guy, because they talked about mobility the entire offseason or the entire 2021 season. And what quarterback is more dynamic with his legs than Malik Willis is in this draft? And you can also see the upside. He would be a good place. It would be a good place for him to go behind Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if he's still there, though, at 20. All right, up next, much like RC, Howard's extension, locking down their lockdown corner. It's a record-setting extension of 2 years, which pays him $50.69 million in new money, in addition to the $39 million he already had on his old deal. So Howard got paid, but where does he rank when it comes to corners in the league right now? We have our own DB here, Ryan Clark, to rank him.
You got that
top
solo
5
shot
right now, RC. Go and start with number 5.
Well, Well, listen, this is one that's going to surprise people. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons' A.J. Terrell. The second-year corner was absolutely phenomenal. The reason nobody knows is because nobody cares about the team he plays on. He was a dude that followed #1 receivers. He was hard to complete passes on. He also made plays on the football throughout the entire year. When I look at A.J. Terrell, I look at a guy who's going to ascend to an all-pro level, just much like the guy who's at #4, who is Stefon Diggs, drafted in the same draft in the second round. This dude was an interception machine. For me, he may have given up a little bit too many yards, but when you play the way he does, when you take the chances that he does, when you view the eyeballs of the quarterbacks the way he does, sometimes that's going to happen. But he made so many plays, so many game-changing moves that you have to put this guy in your top 5. At #3, Xavier Howard. Who has touched the football more than this dude since like 2018? Nobody. And that's why he got paid. If the football is in the air, it is his ball to get. He's also great on finishing on tackles and punching the football out and making plays for the Miami Dolphins. They should have been gave him his money. He can follow any receiver you want, inside, outside, play man, also great in zone. At #2, Jair Alexander. I know. He didn't play much last year. He was hurt. Don't give a dang. He is sticky like honey and molasses mixed up together, tied together with duct tape. He is all in-your-face type cornerback. He's also a dude that gets in the field and makes hits. Last year, he was truly missed at Green Bay. I expect you to see him come back this year with a vengeance. And #1, it is no surprise, it's Jalen Ramsey. I know Cincinnati Bengals, y'all caught some passes on him. T. Higgins pulled his face mask and scored. Jamar Chase caught a one-hander, but it's okay. No cornerback in the entire NFL is asked to do more than this man. Move inside, play the star, play tight ends like George Kittle, and get outside and play man-to-man on Deebo Samuel. He's big, he's fast, he's long, and more than anything, he's an absolute dog. That's my top 5. I'm sure Dan is going to argue, but I ain't tripping about what he says about my list because, as I said, it's my list.
All right, first of all.
I like your list.
Yeah, first of all, never tried molasses nor ever plan on trying molasses.
Yeah, you won't.
Second of all.
It's good, though, especially in a cookie.
I'm not going to pretend. Ew. I've been called slow as molasses. I'm not going to pretend to know corners like you do, but where's Darius Slay? Where's Slay?
Darius Slay, listen, Darius Slay was in high consideration. Darius Slay, J.C. Jackson, and Denzel Ward were all in play for #5, and Darius was absolutely phenomenal last year. But I wanted to add in some new blood there.
So I'll ask you another question then. Is there a young guy that did not make the list that you can see fast-forwarding a year from now that plays his way onto your list?
Pat Surtain II will be on this list next year, and there's no question about it. Pat Surtain was not only pro ready coming into this league. I believe he dominated at times. There was no corner that was more poised, more patient, and more locked in each and every game when guarding his receiver. And so I think that some of the things he got from his dad, and then some of the things he got from the Lord Jesus Christ, mixed really well. And we saw a lot of that in Denver this year.
What about Derek Stingley Jr. or Sauce Gardner? You think they'd make the list as rookies?
Well, I think it's hard to make the list as a rookie. I think that adjustment is different. If one is to make it, it's going to be Derek Stingley, and here's why. Derek Stingley has a baseline of talent that is so high it can actually transcend while his mind catches up. Even Jalen Ramsey, who in his second year became one of the best in the business doing it, still had to make that adjustment. I believe that adjustment is hard, and they make it going into their second year. But if anybody has the talent to do it, it's 2-4/7 right here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Just speaking from a quarterback's perspective, I always think that there's
a lot of mock draft action happening here on NFL Live. Todd McShay's latest mock from yesterday, something really interesting there. At the end of the first round, you see the Lions selecting quarterback Desmond Ridder. So let's dive into that. Ridder finished his college career with 44 wins, third most by a quarterback in FBS history. Big part of that was how he performed against the blitz. Over his last 2 seasons at Cincinnati, Ridder threw 28 touchdowns, just 1 interception when he was blitzed. Those 28 touchdown passes led the FBS. Dan, there is something that Ridder does that no other quarterback does as well as him in this class. It's time to go. He's up. He's ready.
He's got the best quarterbacking tape. That doesn't mean I think he's the best or the most impressive. That means that he's got the best pre-snap and post-snap operation. Getting to the line of scrimmage, understanding what the defense is doing. Maybe it's getting in and out of run checks. Maybe it's changing your protection. You got to communicate all that to everybody on your football team. And then that's that pre-snap. And then post-snap, can you operate the same way you did pre-snap to make sure everybody's on the same page to take advantage of the defense? This clip versus Indiana is a perfect example. Okay, so pre-snap operation. I want everyone to pay attention to this edge defender right now. As Desmond Ridder is going through his cadence right there, he's going to see this edge defender start to walk to the line of scrimmage. That's clue number one. Now, when that happens, watch what he does. Walks to the line of scrimmage and starts to go through this communication process. I love this. He's going to the line of scrimmage and starts walking to the right. Why is he doing that? They're playing on the road versus Indiana. It's going to be a loud stadium. You got to make sure that everybody on the right side of your offensive line is hearing your communication. Now he's going to come back to the left side, and I love this process. Look at how he's pointing. He's pointing to his offensive line, not only verbally communicating, but saying, hey, fellas, these two guys, they're going to be blitzers. I've changed the protection. I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. Part of this pre-snap communication. Now he's going to go, hey, tailback, pay attention. Here comes that blitzer. I want you to be ready. There's that pre-snap part of this. Now post-snap. What's going to happen is this. This is his number one receiver, okay? This is Alec Pierce, his slot receiver. You're going to get a triangle coverage. You see these three defenders? They're playing 3 over 2. That's not a good place to go to the football. You got those edge pressure guys. I told you that he's going to send his offensive line right guard all the way to the left tackle. He's going to send 4 guys to those blitzers. I've changed the protection. I'm diagnosing the coverage. Now the question is, do you see the coverage? I told you the triangle, so where's the vacancy that you can go with the football? It's in the middle of the field. Look at all that space that as a quarterback, if you have diagnosed the pressure and you've taken advantage of the opportunity to go attack, can you see it? And then now I want to know, can you make the throw as you are about to get your sternum split in half by this defender that your offensive line doesn't pick up? Can you still make that throw to that in-breaking tight end and put it right on his chest for a huge completion? There's that pre-snap operation and the communication. There's the post-snap operation. When I watch Desmond Ridder, the guy that I think he reminds me most of is Alex Smith. Really smart, really accurate, a little bit mechanical, and a sneakily very good athlete. The boys from Athens, Ohio, know Desmond Ridder is rising up the draft boards because of how good he plays quarterback up top.
Yeah, that communication makes sense when we heard so much about his interviews at the Combine even. And Matt, we showed your tweet before the break saying that Ridder could move into the top 20. Why is this narrative changing around this quarterback?
Yeah, Laura, I think a lot of it is some of what Dan showed. This is the time of year where you're not convincing us that you're a good football player. You're convincing us that your character, your leadership, your football IQ, your athleticism at the Combine, those are the tools right now that a player can really use to move up draft boards, and I believe that's what Desmond Ridder's doing. As you said, we've all heard about how good the Combine interviews were, or him coming in saying, hey, I'm going to take the job of a veteran if you draft me. I love that confidence when you match it with the athletic tools, the 50 games in college as well. He's experienced, he's smart. I think we saw this year him get better with some of the accuracy issues that plagued his tape in 2020, but despite the fact that his offensive line, quite frankly, was not very good this year. So I think that's why teams are starting to really like Desmond Ridder, especially if we see Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett go off the board in the top 10. Then I think top 15 and even top 20 is very realistic.
Wow.
Yeah, when you look at a guy like Desmond Ridder, it's about the tape, right? You go and look at the tape and you want to see that the meetings, right, or the conversations match what you saw on the football field. And you would look at what Dan was able to diagram about how he was pre-snap, how that also processed once he had the football in his hand. That's what you want quarterbacks to do. And now what teams have to do is visualize him in their building, in their locker room, on their field with some of the players that they have around them. Is Desmond Ridder going to become this all-pro caliber quarterback? I don't believe that because I believe a certain skill set goes in that. But can he be a very good professional quarterback, a very good leader in the locker rooms in the NFL and play for a decade? Absolutely. And I believe that's what people are seeing when they get opportunities to sit down with him and pick his brain a bit.
You know, I would just like to remind everyone as the narratives around these quarterbacks change. Remember last year, especially around this time, and then in the lead up to the draft, we thought that the 49ers had traded up to that 3rd overall pick to get Mac Jones. They end up taking Trey Lance. So much can change between now and the time of the draft. Time for one more thing before we go. Guys, check this out. CFL Edmonton Elks receiver Shea Ross does a backflip. And I'm just going to let you watch it because He's not going to let go of the barbell. He's about to do it. Wow!
Okay. Why?
But
why though? Why do you stand around and watch that?
Hey, haters would say the barbell's fake.
Why do you stand around and watch that? That's foolishness.
I think it's one of the dumbest things I've seen. I'm not trying to be.
That's insane.
I think it's so dumb.
I don't know how he did it. Like, how's it physically possible? Somebody tell me. I'm going to try it at home later.
Because he did dumb stuff?
No, maybe I shouldn't, right?
Don't try it.
No, you shouldn't.
Don't try it, Laura.
Somersault.
I can do a somersault, just maybe not with the barbell. All right, we'll see you next week on NFL Live.
I can do a little rolly thing, though.